Video on the strategic value of a SWOT. We're going to really kind of dig into a SWOT to give you a foundation for moving forward with this week's assignment. And this is one of those tools that if you have in your toolbox and can pull out, it makes you more valuable to your organization. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of talk about what's the strategic value of using a SWOT and how does it actually help your operations. And then as we get to the end, it's going to give you some skill in actually completing a SWOT. So you'll have those fundamentals. I mean, the one thing we know is running a business is challenging. Making decisions that support sustainable competitive advantage is vitally important. And ultimately, as a manager, your job is to take steps every day to meet those company objectives and to conduct the operations in a way where you're achieving the strategy. And a SWOT helps you do that in many different ways. So you may ask, well, what is a SWOT? Many of us have heard the word before, a SWOT, but that doesn't necessarily mean we understand what it means in totality. So first, strengths and weaknesses are internal to your organization. It's where you really get a clear picture of what your resource capabilities are and what types of deficiencies you face. And the opportunities and threats are external to an organization. Opportunities generally are related to market opportunities that now exist that if taken advantage of will give you a sustainable competitive advantage. And threats are things that are threats to your future well-being as a company. So identifying them is vitally important to your future and to actually doing things in a way or taking steps to minimize the impact of those threats. So this becomes important to your ability to just function well. Kim and Malburn said that before executives can chart a new strategy, they must reach common understanding of the company's current position. And the bottom line is a SWOT gives you a tool to get to that common understanding. So if you go back to work tomorrow and you go, you know what, we're going to complete a SWOT as a department. And it's going to be a departmental SWOT because that's one of the things about a SWOT. It will scale up or scale down. So you can use it at an organization level, you can use it as a department level. And so I say we're going to do this. And we get into discussion about, well, what are our strengths? And you'll be amazed by the fact that you don't all agree on that. Then you start talking about weaknesses, and boy, then it really hits the fan because you're not agreeing on those either. And so through the process of having the conversations related to actually completing a SWOT, you get to that common understanding that's necessary to be able to move forward. Now this next slide is going to actually show you a video on the basics of a SWOT, but the true focus of this video is on pestle analysis. And a pestle analysis is a systematic approach to gathering information to put into the opportunities and threats area of a SWOT. So it's a useful tool in making sure that you're approaching it in a way where you can achieve what you want to achieve.
Welcome to this tooling video. In this video, we are going to discuss the SWOT and pestle analyses. These can be applied to problems as part of your project. Both analyses can be used to understand the organization, including both its internal and external environment. It is very important that you, as a manager of an organization, can understand and anticipate the things that are coming towards you. This is an elemental part of understanding your position on the market. Here you see a pyramid. The pyramid stands for either an organization or a product. There are internal forces influencing the organization. These are described as the strengths and the weaknesses of an organization or product. The organization is also influenced by the forces from its external environment. These forces pose opportunities and threats for the organization or for the product. Let's first discuss the strengths and weaknesses. Every organization or product has its own strengths, and every organization or product has its own weaknesses. For instance, the bakery around the corner has been there for over 40 years and has a very good client base, so there's lots of personal engagement. That is definitely a strength. But, on the other hand, the employees that are working there are not skilled enough as they did not get enough training. This is a weakness. The organization does not stand alone, but is actually influenced by its external environment. This external environment poses opportunities and threats for the organization or product. In this way, we identify 6 elements we need to take into account. The first of these is politics. Political changes, in government for instance, can influence the way you put your product onto the market. Secondly is economics. The economy can change over the years and can therefore boost your organization or product, or can put restraints on it. Thirdly are social dynamics. There might be things happening in the social system which make your product or organization more wanted or less so. Fourth is technology. Technology might change, which may cause your product to become obsolete. Technology can also influence the way that you can use or develop your product. Then we have environmental issues. Through the environment, your product and your organization might be influenced. Strong rainfall or extreme heat could kill a harvest, thereby causing an increase in the cost for your product. And finally, we have legal elements. So, for instance, new legal conditions coming from the European Union may influence your organization or product. All these elements are contingent. You can't directly influence them. So as an organization, you can only anticipate the things that can happen. You could, for instance, perform scenario planning to understand what might be coming towards you. Within your organization, you can, however, identify your strategy, your management, and the ways you work with your colleagues or employees. These internal elements are the things you can influence and could change. You could, for example, change from a cost leadership strategy to a customer-focused strategy. While the internal forces can be influenced, the external ones cannot. But by taking these external forces into account, the organization can anticipate and seizing opportunities and bypassing threats in the marketplace. Thank you for watching this tooling video, and we hope to see you next time.
So that brings us to our 2x2 matrix. We have our helpful or positive column and our harmful negative column. And in the helpful column, we have our strengths. These are assets that boost our profitability. They're internal to our organization. We have complete control over these. So if we don't like what's in this column, we can always build new strengths. Keep that in mind. And the opportunities, those are external to us. These are things we can take advantage of to add competitive advantage, and we use our strengths. One of the things about using this as a forward-thinking tool is that if we identify opportunities that haven't quite come into fruition yet, but we see the shifts in the environment happening, we don't have the strengths at this time to take advantage of that opportunity when it develops. We may have time to develop the strengths necessary to take advantage of the opportunity. In the harmful column, we have our weaknesses. These are liabilities that depress our profitability. We've got to work to eliminate or minimize these, and we have complete control over that. There's no reason to let weakness run rampant in our organization unless we just simply don't want to take the time, the attention, or the resources to fix it. And then we have threats, which are external, and these are the things that we can't change, but we do need to identify because they threaten us. And by identifying them, we have an opportunity to protect ourselves against them or minimize the harmful impact they might have. Now, the two areas I see the biggest mistakes on when dealing with the SWOT, and I'm not just talking about in student work, but out in the actual field when applying this, is that you may be sitting in a department meeting and someone goes, I don't think that, we can't acknowledge we have that weakness. Why don't we just rewrite that so it's a strength? Well, you can do that. You can do anything you want to do, but here's what happens. That weakness still exists. It didn't go away simply because you rewrote it and moved it to a different column. Instead, that weakness exists in silence, in blindness, in the dark. And nobody's going to ever do anything to fix it because you won't even acknowledge it exists. That's very damaging to the company. Be brutally honest here. The other factor I often see is people will write down opportunities and then write them down as a strength as well. They're an opportunity. You don't control that. What you're going to do then is match it up to the strengths you'll use to take advantage of that opportunity. So those are two things just to watch out for as you move forward with this. You're going to move forward with your project now. If you run into any problems or any questions, please just